Yes, thank you, Jess. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Columbus Region Logistics Council's Women in Logistics program. I'm Sarah Hoagland with Schneider Downs, a presenting partner of the CRLC's event series. Today's program is one of utmost importance. We will be discussing the relevant resources you need to build a meaningful diversity, equity, and inclusion toolkit. And Schneider Downs is honored to be opening today's program. I'm a manager with the Schneider Downs tax practice, and I am proud that our firm is committed to gender equity and ensuring diversity by hiring, developing, and promoting a diverse group of employees based on individual merit and performance. We seek to create an inclusive environment in which each person is valued as a key component of our culture and a critical factor in our ability to provide quality service to our clients. Schneider Downs is a full-service accounting and business advisory firm serving a diverse range of entities in the public and private sectors, from small, closely held businesses to large, publicly traded companies. Within our firm, Schneider Downs Transportation and Logistics Industry Group provides business advisory services to a wide range of transportation and logistics clients, from local carriers to national enterprises. Specific to our transportation and logistics industry focus, we have over 50 years of experience providing traditional accounting, financial reporting, and tax services to many companies in this space. In addition, through the 80 service offerings that Schneider Downs business units offer, we also provide technology, wealth management, due diligence, risk mitigation, and other forward-thinking business solutions. If anyone has any questions about Schneider Downs or how we might be able to add value to your organization, we will be available after the presentation to discuss your needs. Thank you for joining us and for your support of the Columbus Region Logistics Council, an initiative by the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. We look forward to today's conversation. I'd now like to introduce Teresa Passwater, Director with Sedgwick Companies.
Good morning. It's great to join the Columbus Region Logistics Council for its annual Women in Logistics program. I am Teresa Passwater, Director of Business Development with Sedgwick. Sedgwick is a proud partner of the CRLC and a longstanding member of the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. A little bit about Sedgwick. We are a leading global provider for benefit solutions. We are formerly known as CareWorks. We are now part of the Sedgwick family. Even though our name has changed, our service and our people have not. For over 70 years, we have provided great service to our Ohio clients and partners, including the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. Our colleagues help employers navigate the Ohio workers' comp system, providing guidance on numerous programs, including group rating, in which we have saved Ohio employers over $4 billion in premiums, and the group retrospective rating plan, in which we have assisted Ohio employers in getting another $630 million in rebates. We excel in identifying cost control measures that result in premium savings for Ohio employers so they can still save money after that workers' comp claim happens. It's hard to predict when an injury will happen, so we are proud to partner with the Columbus Chamber to help their members protect their bottom line when it comes to workers' comp and to support great programming such as today's event through the Columbus Region Logistics Council. This morning, you will have the chance to participate in 2 roundtable discussions with industry leaders on workforce diversity, equity, and inclusion, and supplier diversity. I would now like to welcome Zaki Bashir, manager of the Columbus Region Logistics Council, to kick off today's program.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. I know we have some groups that are watching, so thank you for all of you who are joining as a team, watching this from your respective areas. So like she said, my name is Zaki. I manage the Columbus Region Logistics Council here for the Columbus Chamber. And every year we have an annual Women in Logistics event. Typically this hosts a keynote speaker or a panel to discuss things that are important to the logistics industry from the perspective of those who have had success in the industry from a women in logistics standpoint. Now, a little bit of backstory. Last year, the last event the Chamber had that was in person was actually a logistics event last year in March. And it's more than likely that As we move into July, the next event we have will probably be some hybrid or even in person. So logistics this year is bookending this pandemic for the chamber events. A little bit about today, what you can expect. We have two topics, which was mentioned before, and the intention will be that you can attend one that is important to you. So for example, there may be someone from an organization that has more of an HR perspective and someone that's more in operations from the same organization. And today you both will be able to enjoy the respective roundtable discussions. And the reason we decided to do this is because we did some surveying of logistics council members, chamber membership, and we continue to get feedback that roundtables and conversations about DE&I was important to every organization inside the membership. So today we decided, instead of having one or two people that were serving as the keynote, we will have a couple of facilitators who are experts in their own right that were able to come and discuss what they're working on, what their plans are, how you measure success, metrics, etc. And that's why we coined it a toolkit for today. So what you can expect is to have a conversation with people in the room. Some may be more experts than you, some may be newer than you, but we want to try to get that 1 to 5 scale of, when you think about DE&I in your organization, from a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being an expert, 1 being a novice, where are you and how do you get to that next level? How do you get to a 3, 4, 5, etc. So I hope that you can enjoy the conversation. At the end, there will be some networking in smaller groups, so you'll get a chance to really engage with someone interesting that you spoke to today. You may have a chance to meet a next partnership, a next prospect, whoever it may be. One thing I want to mention is that both sessions will be recorded. So if for some reason you are interested in both, but you're only able to attend one, obviously you will have an opportunity to watch the recording later on today. Another announcement I wanted to make is, as a part of this Women in Logistics event every year, we have our Women in Logistics Scholarship. And I'm excited to announce that this year, the Columbus Chamber has decided to expand the Women in Logistics Scholarship to 4 scholarships of $1,000 each. So in addition to your contributions from the event today, thank you, Jeremy. In addition to your contributions from the event today, that will also go into the pool of funds for that scholarship. But the Chamber has decided to dedicate at least $4,000 or 4 scholarships of $1,000 to Women in Logistics in partnership with Columbus State Community College. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about who you will be able to interact with. In session 1, if you sign up for that one, we'll have Lisa Fabrizio and Heather Yakes from Action Coach. Lisa is from Expeditors Global. But there's also a special guest that I invited, Colleen Scheinbach from Mass Global, that will be in that room. And again, the intention is to have an open forum and an open discussion about workforce diversity in that room. In session 2, you'll have Tara Abraham from Excel and Jackie Neal from OMSDC, and a special invited guest, Angela Colley. So again, in the room, I think maybe if there are a lot of people that are talking, you can always use the hand raise feature that Zoom has here, or if you have a subject that you want to discuss, feel free to use the chat, etc. And again, the intention is just to have an open forum and an open discussion, and both rooms will be recorded. So before we kick it off, any questions or anything I left out? Okay, well, we will get ready to move into the breakout room.
I have a question.
Go for it.
So would you all be open to having one more $1,000 scholarship from Coalescence?
Of course. Of course, I will connect you, Miss Angela, with, I guess that would be Hope, or someone from our team will definitely connect with you. We won't let that go unanswered. We really appreciate that. Okay, anything else? It's hard to follow that. Okay, so like I said, let's go ahead and go into the breakout rooms. They're expected to last about 40 minutes. We'll come back here just before 10 o'clock. And then, like I mentioned, there will be some networking at the end if you choose to stay for that component. There's a special announcement that I'll make about those who stay for the networking. So I hope you enjoy the next 40 minutes. Feel free to ask questions, discuss. Don't be shy, and I'll see you here in about 40 minutes. Thanks.
Thanks, Zaki. I have opened the breakout room. So if you cannot see that button at the bottom, there's the more icon, click on it and click breakout rooms, and you should see the 2 options to pick from.
All right, let's kick it off. So Lisa, I'll just throw it over to you. Maybe introduce yourself, give a little bit of background, and maybe that will help kind of drive some questions.
Absolutely. So my name is Lisa Fabrizio, and I work for a company called Expeditors International, and I've worked there just shy of 24 years. And majority of my career was in Michigan, and I had the opportunity to move to Columbus about 3.5 years ago and lead this district. I tell you one thing, and I can talk a little bit more about it. One thing that I've always loved was just the opportunities in the company. Really were driven by your work ethic. And I am a mother of two daughters, are 26 and 22. I mentioned to a few of you earlier, I'm actually in Florida right now celebrating our 26-year anniversary. And so that's a little bit about me.
All right, thank you, Lisa. I'm Heather Yakes. I'm your other roundtable panelist today. So a little bit about my background. Actually, I spent over 20 plus years in corporate America, had a very blessed career. I was actually one of the first few people that actually had a degree in logistics from Ohio State University. Back then, that term really wasn't popular. We were one of 3 colleges and universities in America that even offered a degree in logistics. So I did spend the first half of that career in a logistics field, all aspects of logistics. If you think of the total supply chain, I've been in every single part of it. And then the second half of that career was really focused on corporate strategy and helping businesses go from point A to point B. So some of the companies that you may be familiar with that I was either working in or as a consultant, Worthington Industries, Cardinal Health, Avery Dennison, Butler Company, Liggett & Platt. And then about 7.5 years ago, I decided to take the plunge out of corporate America, and I now work with small to medium sized businesses in the state of Ohio mostly, but I do have some clients outside of the state of Ohio, and helping them with all aspects of their business, really focused on building their business to grow while also building it to work without them. So that's a little bit about my background. I think why I was asked to be on this panel, a couple reasons. Have a lot of experience. I used to run our supply chain practice for Arthur Andersen. Does anybody remember Arthur Andersen? Doesn't that whole Enron thing kind of happened, right? And I was there during that time. So I ran our supply chain practice there. And I was also an integral part of developing a good mentor program there. And then in my stint with Liggett & Platt, I was also, I was VP of purchasing and strategy. Those two things don't go together, but when you have experience in both, they just make one title, right? So I was responsible for our Supplier Diversity program there as well. So I thought that might kind of spur some questions. So who's got a first question?
Hey, Heather, I'll jump in here. Kelly Fuller with the Columbus Chamber, Director of Workforce, and great to see everybody, some old friends and some new friends today. Heather, I want to pick up on something you just mentioned about a mentorship program. Can you and Lisa talk a little bit more about the power of a good mentorship program and what that can mean specifically for women in the logistics and supply chain field?
Absolutely. So I think the importance of it, and by the way, you don't have to be a big company to have a mentorship program. I have clients that I coach that I encourage them and help them develop mentor programs for, less than 10 people. The reason it's important is that employee engagement and retention. Now, obviously, we're dealing with a lot of other labor issues right now, but one thing over time that has always been a challenge for businesses is retaining and keeping good team members engaged. And what you'll find is that when new people come into your organization, I want you to think of it in kind of three levels. If you don't have a good solid culture and good mentor program to kind of bring those people into that culture, they kind of think of that first level, they kind of act like sheep, right? They're kind of roaming around trying to figure out who they are, what they are, how they fit in. And if you don't have a strong mentor program to kind of explain the ropes and how things work, and somebody confident that they can have confidence in speaking with, they end up building that next layer, which is kind of like a me approach. Well, I can't figure out where I fit in, so I'm just kind of going to be me and do my thing. And what mentoring helps do is kind of create that we approach to your team of employee engagement and really help them feel a part of why they signed up for your organization. So those are just a couple of key points of why I think it's really, really important to have a strong mentoring program. And by the way, the mentor is not your boss. It needs to be somebody else, right?
Yeah, so Heather, I appreciate that comment, but just really quick, somebody is not on mute in their keying, in their typing, if they can go on mute, please. Thanks. So, I think, Heather, you brought up a really good point about why you were probably invited to speak in its mentorship. And it's probably the same reason I was invited. Throughout my career, I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I didn't have all the mentors that I had. And in reality, I had only asked one person to be my mentor, but I had many mentors that I went to or that I viewed as a mentor just based on trust. I trusted them. They also were career driven and I knew could give me advice and guide and coach me. And so for me, one of the things that I want to give back is what was given to me. And through my career, I have mentored and I continue to mentor multiple people. And when I was in Detroit, I had about 10 people that I was mentoring, and we would go to lunch once a month, but they could always come to me to help prepare for meetings, tough discussions. They still reach out to me when I'm in Columbus, when they're getting ready to make a big move, or just reach out and say, hey, I'm thinking about you. And I reach out to them and I do the same thing. If I'm in Michigan, I'll say, hey, let's grab lunch, just to stay in touch with them. And currently today, I'm leading mentoring about 6 people on my team at various levels of my team. And it just, it makes it easy for them, whether it's, hey, what did you do for the weekend? It just builds comfort. And Heather, you mentioned that your mentor should not be your boss, and I could not agree more. Through my career, I had multiple people approach me to be their mentor, and they were already on my team. And so I told them that, I don't ever believe in being selfish, but in this instance, I'm going to tell you to be selfish. You're going to get mentorship from me anyway as your leader. You should ask somebody outside of me to be your mentor. And then you're going to get it from 2 different people. And I still tell my teams that you're going to get it from me no matter what, but ask somebody else. And another thing that we tried that was an epic failure is you can't assign mentorship. It has to be genuine. And, we tried to do that once as a management group and taking a look at our up and comers and how do we continue to push them forward. And we try to assign, and it just doesn't work. It has to be natural.
I agree with that. And Camille, it looks like you have I'm seeing some hands raised. What are your questions, Camille?
Hi, I work in public sector. I work for a large agency with the state, and something that we don't have is a mentorship program. So I've talked to HR about it, and it sounds good in theory, but when you're working with such a large group that's been so established, how do you even start it off the ground? Since you said mentors shouldn't be assigned, it should kind of be natural. How do you tap to get the right people to potentially mentor and make those partnerships? Because like I said, we're still working remotely. It's a large agency with 2,000 plus people. How do you make those connections and how do you get things established?
Yeah, I'd be happy to share the system that we put in place. So this is literally a how-to, and you can adjust it to how it fits in your organization. So to Lisa's point, I think you have to look at it in 2 different directions. You've got existing folks, right, that you need to take care of, and then you have new, okay? So I'm going to start with the new, and then we'll talk about how to do it differently with existing. So when somebody new comes into the organization, this is how we set it up at Arthur Andersen and have done so in other companies as well. When they are first coming in, you want to get them taken care of right away. So we did, and I completely agree with Lisa, you don't want a mentor assigned. However, on day 1, they don't know anybody. So for the first 3 months of their career, we assign somebody to them that we think is, after doing their interviewing, knowing our people, but that mentor-mentee relationship was only 3 months long. During that 3 months, it is that mentee's responsibility to kind of be meeting other potential mentors. And at the end of that 3 months, they either can make a decision to keep the mentor that they have, or they can choose another one. Okay. So we did assign the first 3 months, we would give each mentor-mentee relationship a budget. Now, keep in mind, this was a big company. Okay. But let's say it was like $100 a month. Okay. That relationship would have $100 a month, and they were expected to do one activity together a month, not just so there's going to be phone chats and okay, I'll be honest, back then but there's going to be all of that, but one formal thing. And a lot of times it might just be going to lunch. Sometimes I would go with my mentor and we go take an hour and we go bowl, or play around a golf, or go do a charity event, go do some service oriented work. So between that mentor and mentee, they chose what was important to them, but it was part of their KPIs that they did at least one formal activity that lasted, at least an hour and no more than 2 hours a month. Like there was dedicated time for that. Now, existing folks, you might think, well, what if everybody chooses the favorite mentor, right? You can't do that. A mentor could only have at most 2 people that they were mentoring at a time to not overwhelm the mentor. So when you think about your existing folks, it's kind of the same thing. You sit down as a boss and say, let's do a list of your top 5 that you'd like to consider being your mentor. What kind of relationship do you have with them to this point? These are some things that you can do to start exploring that relationship, and give them a number of months to kind of develop and then choose. And then it needs to be, this is really, really important. It needs to be, and I think this hones in on Lisa's point, it needs to be a mutual. So the mentor can say, I'm not really feeling it. This is probably not, I know they admire me, but maybe this is not the best relationship, that I don't think I'm the best mentor for them. So it needs to be a mutual decision that they are the formal partners kind of going forward. So we actually systematized our mentoring program. Then we evaluated, we gave an award for the mentor of the year. So think about how awesome that was for the mentees to be nominating and telling how wonderful their mentor was. So it was a great recognition piece as well. Lisa, do you have something?
Yeah, I would. So with my experience, we didn't really have a mentorship or program itself. I will just say we had a lot of really good leaders, and that just genuinely cared about the growth and the development of their people. Our company is a fairly young company. It's 41 years old. We are a global company, international, 18,000 employees. The cool thing is that our founders, there were a handful of gentlemen that actually worked in the industry and felt like in the companies they worked for, the employees weren't taken care of. And so they refinanced their homes, came up with like $300,000 and started this company called Expeditors International. And we're now a Fortune 500 company. So they've done a good job. And our leaders that founded our company, they're just now retiring in the last 5 years. Our new CEO started with us at 16 years old and used to run documents. And so I think what makes it so powerful in our company is that we have so many of our original employees in this company that care so much about the culture, because I think, Heather, you mentioned culture as well. And so we never had a formal program, but my expectation is that I'm mentoring, and so are my other managers are mentoring. That's what we owe this back to our employees. And then the one thing that we're looking at in my district is the onboarding process. So to kick it off, and Heather, you mentioned, just having a mentor for 3 months. I'm waiting. I'm actually really excited because I'm hosting a couple book clubs with my employees, first-time manager book clubs. And one thing that they took from it is, hey, let's look at our onboarding process and how do we make people feel welcome from day one. And as we come back into the office, which we are starting to come back into the office, They're actually presenting to us on Friday. And so I'm really excited. But one thing, because I did kind of jump into one of their meetings just to kind of see which path they were going. And they're assigning a buddy system, and which I think is really awesome. And that's just to make the individual comfortable. We're talking about, putting a fruit basket on their desk, and people can come over and introduce themselves and grab fruit. Like, there's just different things that we're considering to engage our teams.
And I think that's a good point, is that you need to find there's so many ranges of mentor relationships that can, and programs, all the way from just letting it happen naturally to a formal program to everything in between. We implemented it at our Lancaster Fairfield County Chamber, because what we were finding is that retention of chamber members fell off the quickest in year one. And as you know, with any organization like that, the excuse that, well, I'm not getting value. Well, why aren't you getting value? There's tons of value in this organization, right? So most of it was they just weren't aware. So we assigned an executive, in this case, we did assign an executive board member to each new chamber member that just checks in with them once a month. Hey, be aware of these events. These are why they're important. Here's what you can get out of them. Oh, you don't know how to do this, or let me connect you with them. So I think here's the point. It doesn't matter how formal or informal. The point is, there's no excuse not to have one.
Yeah, I was just thinking, so Camille, to your question as well, there are times when somebody will come to me and ask me to be their mentor. There are also individuals that I selected that I wanted to be their mentor, and I reached out to them and said, I have this young lady in my office, and she is a superstar, and but I know what she's capable of. And so I reached out to her and just said, hey, do you mind if we touch base every month? And we put 30 minutes on our calendar, and we talk about different book clubs that she can join, different certifications that she can get, or just how was her Disney trip she just went on. And so it's to your point, it could be informal and or formal. And the other thing I wanted to point out is, I had only asked one person to be my mentor. And at one point he was my boss, and we still engage, but I view of other people younger than me, same sex, opposite sex, as my mentors. And I'm comfortable reaching out to them and maybe different topics that I need to talk to them about. But I have older mentors, and I have younger mentors, and I have female and male mentors. It's just who you really mesh with. And oftentimes it too is, their character and who they are and what you like about them.
Great. Other questions? And it doesn't have to be about mentoring. I think our breakout covers a wide range of topics. So
I think Bob, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a question. This is Jill with FST Logistics. So we don't have a formal DE&I program. We're 100% employee owned. So oftentimes we try to have programs like this run by our employee owners, but we also don't want to boil the ocean. Sometimes that can be limiting for us. It's like, oh, we can do all of these things, and then it's hard to get it off the ground. So what would be step 1, 2, and 3 to getting something like that off the ground?
So in our organization, I mentioned we have 18,000 employees. The way we're structured is it's like a mom and pop shop here locally. Like, that's the feel we want to give our customers and our employees. But we have the luxury of a headquarters, which is in Seattle, Washington. And the reason I bring that up is the hiring. We don't have a human resource department. We never have. It's all led by the local, by the local level. We do have, for example, we can tap into our corporate leadership for questions, attorneys, anything like that we need. They give us guidance. They teach you how to interview, different things like that. But they really leave it up to us. We're very unique, and I think in how we interview and how we hire. And it was that way 24 years ago. I think I had 5 interviews before they selected me, so they're very selective. But the nice thing about my corporate team is they put together these programs. So we may work with OK Vets. Crystal Ray, we sponsor the schools, the Crystal Ray schools. They also set us up with local companies here that actually specialize in diversity and promote, and like if we're hiring, we can go to these different companies to get candidates. But we also use Handshake through colleges and Smart Recruiter. So when we hire a large range of ways that we actually hire. But we do use companies that support veterans, that also support minority.
And Jill, I just want to clarify, is the question about team diversity, or is it about supplier diversity, or both?
Team diversity.
Okay, so I want to make sure. And, you know, I think, again, I go put my coaching hat on. I think everything starts with having a clear purpose of your company. And I'm not talking dollars and cents. So for example, in my small firm of 4 people, our purpose statement is very clear. It's making a difference one business at a time. That has nothing to do with our financial goals or how big we're going to be, as long as our purpose is making a difference. Now, that may be making a difference in our clients' lives. It may be making a difference in our community. It may be making a difference in one individual's life. So you need to be clear on your purpose. You need to define that culture. And I'm not a fan of a big culture statement that sits on the wall that nobody does anything with. I'm talking about a few bullet points of culture that you use to make decisions. Culture should be used to make decisions. Hiring people, firing people, having tough conversations, whether to take on this customer or that customer, that's what your culture, if any tough decision is made, you refer back to that culture and it'll tell you what to do. So what I'm leading into is, if your culture and your purpose say X, then that's going to help you determine where to prioritize, right? And then I get right into the tactical, because that's what we're about. Get your group together, brainstorm all the possibilities, and then matrix it to prioritize. Start with one. I always recommend start with something and do it deep and do it well before you try to become all the things. Okay, so pick one thing and do it really, really well. Then when you've got that nailed down, come back and do the next thing. So I don't think it's our place to say which thing you start with, because we don't know where's your passion, where's your purpose at.
You know, the one thing that's really important for me when we interview, and I lead the Columbus district, so nobody gets hired without me having a final interview. And the one thing that I look for my team is personality. And the nice thing is typically, and even virtually, where I have an interview right after this, actually. And so we do it all via Zoom these days. But, the one thing that's really important is typically 2 of my managers will interview. And if they get past the 2 managers, because we all have the same goal, we just interview a little bit differently. They typically will go through 2 more managers, they kind of do it together. They don't go through 4 interviews. And then if they're like, yeah, they'd be great for our team, because what we're looking for is somebody, not your skill. And that's the honest truth. I'm not interested in your skill. Although skill is great, I'm interested in your personality, because one bad personality will destroy an entire operation. And then, so by the time they come to me, it's a casual conversation. I want to get to know you. Talk to me for an hour. Tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you like to do? And it's allows me to start building that relationship with them, and to see how they're going to mesh with my team. And then, I took a course, emotional intelligence. It was an all-day course, and I'll tell you, it was fantastic. It really opened my eyes to the different personalities and what to consider. And oftentimes we tend to lean towards the same personality, when you need all the personalities on your team. You need somebody that is detail oriented. You need somebody that is creative. You need somebody that just wants to get the job done. And you need somebody that they take their time and everybody has to have a say. So it's really good to diverse your teams that way as well. Bob, did you have a question?
I have to unmute myself. Thank you so much. First of all, Lisa and Heather, thank you so much for facilitating today. This is great. Maybe this is more directed at Lisa, maybe to frame this up. 2 data points. In November, the McKinsey Quarterly reported that 2 out of 5 global organizations had significantly increased their budgets for DEI. That was during the height of the pandemic. By January, Forbes had actually reported that CFOs were reporting DEI as one of the top 5 priorities for organizations. Now, most of those, I'm guessing, are very large organizations. But maybe, Lisa, to you first, when you look at your organization, and don't think about the big strategy at a global level, but what do you want to achieve? Where do you need to be with DEI to be successful? And where are you today? Kind of on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you need to be? Where are you today? And where is that gap for you? Where are you finding the most challenges in really closing that gap?
So I will tell you, I at my local level, I don't know that I can answer those questions because it's a lot of that is driven by our corporate team. We use multiple companies when recruiting, and but we also are going to give a position to somebody that deserves a position. I've worked for companies that I already knew who my next boss was because of their hire date. And that was really unfortunate because how do you know they were a good leader? And I once had, I had never led a team. And I actually said to one of my bosses who moved to Atlanta, hey, I want to move to Atlanta, but to do that, I need to make X amount of money. And he said, Lisa, you're asking me to put you in a management position with a team of people that they have no idea who Lisa Fabrizio is. Like, that's going to be challenging. And he said, I know you've been able to do everything we've given you, but I don't know if you can lead people. You've never led somebody in front of me before. And that was such an eye opener for me. And that's how I've always led as well, is I am very specific on who leads my teams because I have to know that that they genuinely care about our team. So Bob, I'm sorry, I can't really answer that question. I can tell you that we do use outlets to help support the diversity and the inclusion, but I don't know that we necessarily have a formal program.
Yeah, I would agree, Lisa. We're kind of the same approach. Just like we wouldn't want to not hire somebody because of their race or gender or whatever. We also do not have a program to hire somebody because of their race or gender or things like that. However, what I think is most important is that, to Lisa's point, make sure that we are branching out to those diversified organizations to make sure that they're getting in the applicant pool, because it starts there. And making sure that they, have the skill sets, the resumes updated, and helping in that way. So we do a lot of, just teaching folks to get them. Somebody reached out to me. This just happened the other day. A retired Marine. I do not know him at all, but he's like, can you help me? And by the way, I'm not a life coach, but he's like, I'm having trouble with converting my military language to the private sector, and I'm not getting jobs. I'm like, absolutely, I'm going to help you. Now, does that mean I'm going to hire him? I first of all, I don't have an opportunity right now, but the point is I think what's most important is making sure that as businesses, we're doing things to help that pool of candidates. But at the end of the day, we have to hire the right person for the job.
Yeah, and we're encouraged, which is why our corporate team sets up the OK vets and gives us the resumes, and working with companies that support minorities. But I'll just give you guys a couple of examples. There were 2 individuals, one here in Columbus. My husband and I were eating at Olive Garden, and this young man was our waiter. And he did a phenomenal job. He was very detailed, very well-mannered. We went back there and I saw him, and he was engaging with, he wasn't in our section, he was engaging in another group. And then we had gone back again. It was right by our house. This was over a period of time. It wasn't a 1 week, I swear. We went back and he was our waiter again. And I said, hey, how long, how are you in school? How long have you worked here? He said, well, I've been out of school for a year. And I said, well, if you're ever interested in doing something else, give me a call and get you set up with some interviews, because my managers have to also agree. I'm not just going to make that decision. I will make the final decision, but I want their sign off as well. And he works for us now. And just because he did such an awesome job and had such a great personality. And then I was at JCPenney and this young lady did such an awesome job being very thorough on my receipt. I gave her my business card and said, hey, if you're ever looking to do something different, give me a call. I'll get you set up with some interviews. And she works for us as well.
I think you and I, Lisa, were cut from the same mold. That's what I mean. We need to be purposeful about keeping an eye out for those individuals. They're there. And they want to do good work. Like, I hate hearing right now, we can't find anybody good to work. Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
It's kind of a joke now for us when we go to dinner and our kids are with us, because I'll say, wow, she's really good. And they're like, Mom, are you pulling out a business card?
I get that too.
Let me ask you a question. I think you did a great overview on like hiring diverse candidates and just making sure you're hiring the best candidate, right? I think potentially a gap that we see is once we hire great employees, diverse employees, the next question is, do we have the environment and the training that helps develop them? So our organization is fairly diverse, but the higher up you go, the less diverse it gets, right? And we have warehouses and we have women working in our warehouse. And the question is do we create an environment in our warehouse that makes our female employees feel comfortable, that can advance? So have you run into that, and what kind of things have you done to develop our future leaders? Because I don't know that it would be one set thing that works for everybody, right? And are we limiting our diverse employees that are fantastic and not giving them the opportunity to grow?
I can tell you about something we're doing right now. One thing in our organization is you're required to have 52 hours of training. It's a year. It's computer-based training. It's now virtual-led training. But the one thing that we kicked off, that my Detroit team had kicked off, and I thought it was such a great idea, is a book club cohort. And so we kicked it. It was called First Time Manager. And when I had gone out initially to my supervisors and my leads to help them, and there were certain chapters that you read, and then every week we'd get on a Zoom call, and each person had to present 1 week of the 3 or 4 chapters that they had to read. It was only about 20 to 25 pages, but it gave them an opportunity to put a presentation together. It gave them an opportunity to conduct a conversation. And this is a 10-week course. So we initially selected those that went into this particular book club. Well, once it was ending, we opened it up to our whole district. I have about 60 people in my district, and we weren't sure who was really going to be interested in this book club. And we actually had 12 more people that were interested. And so we broke it up into 2 cohorts, 6 per, and it's myself and one of my managers that are leading these cohorts. But it was awesome to see 20% of my branch was interested in their own development, and it was led by myself, and it was a book that I had never read. So I was learning from this book, and it was cool because I got to hear from my employees what their opinions were in certain areas as well. And there were no right or wrong answers, but the dialogue is just awesome, and the teams have just raved about this book club.
I love that idea. That's awesome.
We do book club as well. So with our clients, with ourselves. The other thing, I'll give you another thought. By the way, you'll find I'm a very direct type of coach. So my question for you would be, if it is not clear to the diverse individuals what their career path is, I'm going to just throw it out there. I'm guessing it's not clear to everybody else either. So again, what is your process for, performance reviews are different today. They should be different than when I was in my younger years. Okay. They should be very simple. What are you doing well? What could you do better? What do you want to do as your next step in your career? And what are the key actions that we need to work on to help you get there? Like, oh, I got to be a better leader. I got to be okay. And then as mentors or leaders or bosses, helping them achieve those actions. And that should apply to everybody. So it shouldn't matter what's above. It should matter what you're working on with that individual from the boss's standpoint and the mentor's standpoint to help push them, push and pull them up to that next level.
I think it's, it's really for my mentor, what's critical about mentorship and coaching and being a leader is being honest. I remember asking my boss, he was my boss, but I said, hey, I want to be a district manager. Do you think I'm capable of that? And he said, absolutely. You're not there yet, but we're going to get you there. And it took me about 10 years to get there. And at one point, and he kept positioning me in different areas of our business just to help develop those skills. And I finally had an opportunity to run my own district in Columbus. And so, but we have also implemented a 3+1. So every quarter you have a one-on-one with your employee and it has to be recorded. And then you have a review. But through that, we talk about goals, and it's they're going to tell you their goals, and you should continue to bring it up. And I've had some where they want to continue to develop. It was actually the young man that I hired from the restaurant, and he wants to be a leader, and I mentor him. And I said, then why didn't you sign up for my book club? Like, it's first time manager. And, so I had to hold his feet. I had to tell him, hey, if you want to be a leader, I offered this to you. So my expectation, if you don't sign up next time, I'm gonna poke you and say, do you really want to develop?
So it looks like we've got a little less than a minute. So any last minute thoughts, Heather, Lisa, you'd like to share with the group?
I would just say, when you partner with somebody you want to mentor, just it needs to be genuine. And one thing I absolutely love about my job is people, just engaging in people.
Agreed. And I'll just leave with a final thought. Don't try to solve it all. One thing, and do it really, really well, because there's lots of opportunity. That's what keeps us busy. And Sarah, by the way, I got to know your cat's name. I totally relate to that. That's why I'm standing up. If I don't, my cat will be doing the same thing. What's your cat's name?
Dave. He
Dave.
was in the parking lot, so his name is Dave Thomas.
Good to see you again.
Hello, good morning.
Hey, Avery, long time no see. Still don't see. There she is.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good, good. Looking forward to hearing this conversation.
Yes, I have to get a, please update me, Zaki, what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, so Tara is in the room as well. So the expectation is just that between Tara from, her expertise and her experience and with WBENC as well, and then Ms. Jackie along with you, just being able to discuss what you're working on, allow this room to ask questions, talk about what the individual members in this group are working on, et cetera. So really, again, just an open forum and an opportunity to spread whatever the knowledge that you have. I know we did our interview a couple of weeks ago, Jackie, so really just more of the same, continuing that conversation with the larger group. I see people are still kind of shifting into their room, so we'll give it another minute before we get started on this side.
Zaki, just confirming this is where I'm supposed to be.
That's right. We'll let you go ahead and kick it off.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's so nice to be here. It's an honor and a privilege to be talking about my absolute favorite topic, which is supplier diversity, equity, and inclusion. I have been engaged in this arena since 1999, being a women-owned business and being certified since then, and making sure that it is a top-down approach within our organization and making sure we support the community in that same manner. So very excited to be here and to talk about how Excel has been engaged in this arena and really promotes it internally and externally.
And Jackie, do you want to introduce yourself? We can take a minute and do a couple of introductions. That's all right.
Yes, hi, good morning. My name is Jackie Neal. I'm president of the Ohio Minority Supplier Development Council. I'm really excited to see Angela Cawley, one of our long time MBEs. So good move. We've been in this space. Next year will be our 50th anniversary. So our purpose is to certify, develop, and advocate for minority-owned businesses and connect them to our corporate partners. So the time is now. The need is great, and we need to continue support to do our great work. Thanks.
And Angela, you've gotten a lot of attention so far this morning, so I'll let you introduce yourself as well.
Good morning, everybody. And it's so good to see you, Jackie and Tara. I'm honored to be able to speak amongst greatness. So my name is Angela Cawley. I am the CEO of Coalescence LLC. We're an ingredient manufacturer located here in Columbus, Ohio. I am going to be giving my perspective or offering words from an owner's perspective and trying to develop diversity and inclusion inside of Coalescence, and then some of my experiences, what it's been like trying to do business with larger corporations from a supplier perspective. So I'm happy to be here.
Thanks. Thanks to all three of you. So Tara, I'll let you go ahead. I know you had a couple of things that you had prepared for us.
Yes, I did. Thank you. You know, I probably should tell you guys what I do. I actually kind of forgot to say that. I started a contract packaging and manufacturing company 26 years ago. I was a 72nd corporate employee at Bath & Body Works. I was a merchant, and I couldn't get my gift sets assembled to my quality standards. So we started in this tiny 1,200 square foot facility and have been extremely blessed to anchor the beauty park out in New Albany in 2011 in a 500,000 square foot facility with over 1,200 associates. I like to say that we walk the walk and talk the talk. We have 22 different countries represented and 18 different cultures and languages spoken within our associate base. We're extremely proud of that. We have embraced diversity, equity, and inclusion since the inception of our business. I'd like to tell a really super quick story. We were in our second facility, and this Vietnamese lady named Na Tat walked into our building, and she said, my husband asked, you know, are you here for an interview? She said, no, I'm here to interview you. And he goes, okay, you know, and we were very small and young at the time, and because clearly 26 years later, I'm not young anymore, so I've got a couple bruises under my belt. But anyways, she said she had 60 Vietnamese employees at a company at LAPAC that was relocating to California, and wanted to know if this facility, this company, would be good enough for her employees, and that we embrace diversity and inclusion. So it was absolutely, it was our first entree into learning about all of the different cultures that are in Columbus, Ohio. And I like to say that Kim Bowie, who was her counterpart, is still with us today. So it really introduced us to, you know, opened our eyes to all the different wonderful cultures that reside within our community. So that's really how we kind of was our first entry into really networking with all the wonderful, the Bhutanese, the Hispanics, all the different chambers, and the Somalians. And it's just really, if you come into the facility, I mean, you get it. And, you know, diversity and smiles are part of our values. and inclusion. So I just, would like to kind of give you a little bit of a background. We have praying stations, we celebrate diversity days and Chinese New Year. And, I like to say we have salsa Fridays without the margaritas. So we have music going on in the facility, really trying to make it a wonderful working environment. We always make sure that we have a translator on every single line that has whatever the language is being spoken. So everyone does feel very welcome and has a great understanding of what is going on that production line. So that kind of gives you a little bit of background of how we really got connected with our community. And we have a foundation that also then gives back to that represents, the different communities and cultures and religions within our associate base. So, I did a little bit of research because, I have an HR department, and I think that's extremely important that you have that connection with your HR department so they know how important it is to make sure that they have the equity part, the inclusion part, the diversity part, and they have the right candidates. And so it's, checking all the boxes, if you will. But I'd like to say a quote about diversity. And this is from Jimmy Carter. "We have become not a melting pot, but a beautiful mosaic. Different people, different beliefs, different yearnings, different hopes, and different dreams." And I think that absolutely represents Excel in a nutshell. So Zaki, I don't know what else you want me to say, start with, but I just kind of wanted to give a little bit of background of how important it is to embrace the community and take it internally.
No, I really like that. I really appreciate that perspective. Jackie, I know we had a couple of things we talked about in our interview a couple of weeks ago. Did you want to add anything to what Tara just mentioned?
Yes, from our standpoint, I can appreciate the broader diversity conversation. We really focus on ethnic minorities, in particular, closing the racial wealth gap between Black and Brown owned businesses, because we've been at this 50 years and we've made some millionaires in the process, and they've hired minorities and they've provided jobs, which is great. And our MBEs contribute $16 billion with a B to the state of Ohio. So that is a great thing. So we stand on that, and we're very proud of that. But the fact that 50 years later, the racial wealth gap is just as broad and wide as it has ever been. So there's a lot more work that has to be done. And it's going to take everybody being really committed to it. And supplier diversity is it's all about really helping to just get a seat at the table, right? That's all our minority businesses want, is a seat at the table, not special, not set aside, not handout, but a seat at the table to show what they can do. And corporations in the past have been really good about helping to develop businesses, meaning, let me take you under my wing, let me show you how it's done, let me make sure that you get the same information that historically traditional firms have always gotten, right? Again, they just want, just like Angela, she just wants a seat at the table. Let us show you what we can do, because we're quite capable. And in fact, we're quite innovative. And there's a lot of data that shows that corporations that embrace MBEs in particular definitely outperform their competitors. So there's the qualitative story of economic development and how that does impact this country, but also there's the quantitative support that says that it really does help your corporations to thrive. So that is sort of the gist of what we talked about. And I'm happy to answer any questions and add to the conversation. Thanks.
Thank you. And Angela, I wanted to hear from you a little bit, and anyone else here who maybe is speaking from a HR perspective or from operations perspective about how this works in a day-to-day. But Angela, I wanted to hear from you about how you've actually been implementing this in the real world.
Okay. So first of all, Tara, I remember many years ago, invited a group of women from around the world to come into Columbus, Ohio, and meet with other women-owned business owners and kind of have us mentor for a day and talk about our experiences. So you're doing more than just that. And Jackie, I can't say enough about the NMSDC and what it's done for our organization. So thank you for, all the opportunities and helping us whenever there's an opportunity. Jackie's like, hey, there's an opportunity, call these people. So yay, great organizations. But I would be remiss if I didn't say my introduction to Supplier Diversity. I was fresh out of graduate school with a master's degree, and I walked into a majority company, a flavor company, and they took one look at me and they said, oh, does the company that I was working for, Company X, have a diversity program now? And I'm like, what does that even mean? Because they assumed because I'm Black, that the only reason I got hired in this position was because of a diversity initiative. So I was kind of like, oh, this is what diversity and inclusion is. So welcome to the real world. Anyway, I thought that was funny. That kind of stuck with me. And so when I think about the name of our company, Coalescence, it means to grow or come together into one. And when you look at our company, it's not just about creating like nice blends, because that's what we do, but it's also about creating a platform where people of all different walks of life can come together and just showcase their talents and, you know, just bring it to make all of us better at Coalescence. So when we think about it, 88% of the people that work for Coalescence come from somewhere else. And what does that do? That brings diversity of thought and greatness. And the reason why we're able to do what we do and compete at such a large scale against companies that have been around for 150 plus years with major resources is because of our innovation, our flexibility. And again, as Jackie said, don't let a diverse company get a seat at the table, because we're kicking down the doors and just taking names. And so I'm just thrilled to have a team of people at Coalescence to support us, our vision. My husband and I started this business 16 years ago, and people that work for us are highly sought after because they have an opportunity to come in, work in an environment where they're embraced, where they're celebrated, and where we're expecting greatness and they're delivering. So is that all you wanted to hear?
Yeah,
One
that's
last
great.
thing, we have a goal. I think we have 24 million, I think last year was what we did in revenue, and 5% of our total spend we try to do with diverse women-owned companies. So not only are we promoting people from within, but we actively, intentionally seek out other diverse and women-owned businesses to support and uplift as well.
Angela, I'd like to dovetail off of that. And first and foremost, I've known Angela since the inception of her business, and I've seen her rise. She is crazy brilliant and as kind can be. So it's a pleasure and an honor to be on here with you today. And Jackie, it's nice to see you as well. You're doing great things with the council, so thank you. Keep up the fabulous work. And it was called Be Peace, was the organization, Angela, that actually Beth Pritchard got me in connection with, and they were from Guatemala and Venezuela. So thank you for helping with that as well. But what I wanted to talk about was supplier diversity and the outreach and how important that is with these different organizations. Zaki, you and I talked about WBENC. And, I've been a member of WBENC since 1999, and it started in 1977. WBENC stands for Women Business Enterprise National Council, and it is the largest certification organization for women-owned businesses. There's about 14,400, I think, women-owned businesses that are certified and members of WBENC. And then there's 333 corporations of the Fortune 500 that are members as well. And it's really the conduit of connecting women and minority women businesses with the supplier diversity program, so the Fortune 500 can do business with the government. So it really is a wonderful organization. They have a national conference and business fair where they have a trade show where large corporations are actually actively looking for women-owned businesses to do business to make their supplier diversity goals. And they also have top corporations that get the awards for, I think they spent $51 trillion last year. With a T, with women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses, because that's overarching. NMSDC, which is the National Minority Supplier Diversity Council, a phenomenal organization, as well as the $1 Billion Roundtable. A lot of people are not aware of the $1 Billion Roundtable, and it's corporations. It's a very select group of large Fortune 500s that spend over $1 billion a year with minority and women-owned businesses. So those are some very important organizations to be connected with if you're looking to be certified and looking for opportunities. The regional partner organization in Ohio is WBENC ORB, and that's run underneath the Urban League out of Cincinnati. by Sheila Mixon. Fabulous. So they have local events as well. Angela, what you said about the tier two spend, I am a huge proponent of looking for women and minority owned businesses, because Kellogg's requires us to actually report that spend as well, because it all funnels up, right? So that's what I wanted to say, was just about the different organizations. Hopefully that helps a little bit. Zaki, let me know when you want me to talk about Smart Tank. Okay. I don't want to hog this conversation because we have two other dynamic speakers here. So I'll just shut up because, I kind of like to talk.
Can I add something? I'm sorry.
Sure, go for it. And I want to come to you, Renee, here afterwards, but go ahead, Jackie.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to add something. It's the Ohio Minority Supplier Development Council. And the reason why the D is development, and that's so critical, is because we provide a lot of training and development to build capacity. Right. So we just completed a program with the Ohio State University that focused on operational excellence for MBEs that are at 10 million and above. So and coalescence was in the very first class that we had a couple of years back. But the other piece that's so critical, and National Minority Supplier Development Council does, it's similar to WBENC. We've been around 50 years. We've got 14,000 MBEs that we've certified and 500 corporate partners around the country. But one of the things that's so critically important is partnering, because even if you're $100 million company, and you're trying to do business with a Cardinal Health or Kroger, $120 billion, a lot of times they still see you as relatively small. So I encourage and create partnerships the same way we connect our minority businesses to our corporate partners. I'm very happy and encouraging our minority businesses to partner up. Right. So, and the great thing about being a woman and a minority, you can get both certifications. So that's the really cool part. But we really try to partner them up and put them together. And you ought to look at your competitors, right? There may be some ways that you can align together to go get bigger contracts, as well as look at folks who have tangential services so that you can provide really creative and innovative solutions for our corporate partners. So very happy to be in the space so that we can make a real big difference in this country.
Thank you. And I wanted to go back actually to the annual spend. Angela, you said 5%. Renee, I wanted to ask you, Renee is the president of Acquisition Logistics. Just curious, is that an industry standard? Is there a number that most organizations are trying to reach? And how do you find that metric? Renee, I wanted to come to you.
Yeah, thank you. I would say, having been a part of WBENC, it has brought making my spend more intentional. So when I have an opportunity to select a vendor, I look for women-owned small businesses. And a lot of it's just bringing it top of mind. And so I'm happy to say we just moved this last year. And so I used a woman-owned design business, and I used a woman-owned business to supply all the furniture. And there are people that I met through WBENC, through the small business development classes, through the Goldman Sachs program. And so it's just being intentional with when you have an opportunity to select a vendor, support each other. As you guys were saying, it's like we need to be competimates, not competitors, because we can help each other in this space.
I like that. So I would really want to open it up to the floor. Is 5% industry standard? I know you mentioned
before you go, can I add one more thing though? So as a woman-owned business and Black, I've actually been members in both WBENC and NMSDC. And again, they're absolutely correct. You get benefits from working with both. So if you can check both the boxes, then join both organizations. But one of the things that I also had support was we had our first huge multi-million-dollar contract, and we were about 3 years in terms of our business. And banks just weren't comfortable giving money to us, even though we had a huge contract with a well-known established Fortune 500 company. So working with the NMSDC, they had something called, I think it was a BDF, Jackie?
It was
Business
the BCF.
Development Fund.
BCF.
I think it's still, yeah. So they were able to make the company or the bank, they'll actually comfortable with loaning us money because they guaranteed it on our behalf. So again, having contracts and working with people, that's all great. But if you don't have the financial wherewithal to be able to support it, because people just don't have the trust in you when you're young and until you're proven, there are different opportunities, different programs along with development that you can get working with both the NMSDC and WBENC.
Angela, you're 100% right. You know, and other organizations have that access to capital too, because like their relationships with like Wells Fargo and, you know, and E&Y, but it's still so frustrating today. And no matter how you look at it, the access to capital is still a barrier. And you know, even though it's definitely easier, but it's still not where it needs to be. But those organizations are so helpful.
And is the key asking about the spend requirement? You know, we work mostly in the government realm, and there is a requirement for most of the programs and contracts we work on to have 5% female spend in the government. And so if you're ever asking yourself, is it worth it for me to get these certifications? The answer is yes. And especially now when they're requiring third-party certification, not self-certification, especially in the women-owned small business realm, it is worth your time, and it's a very small investment in order to get that done.
Thank you. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some success stories. I think the story Angela just told was very inspiring. And Tara, I know you've talked about Smart Tank. I wanted to hear a little bit more about that and just, you know, what was the initiative and what were the success stories?
Sure, thank you. I appreciate it. I'll try to be succinct. We have a division of our company called KPAX, which means getting things done in Latin. And it is an investment firm. So we are aggressively looking for women and minority-owned businesses to invest in, not just monetarily, but also with our end-to-end services, bringing products to market rapidly with scalability, access to capital, access to our packaging, design, engineering. So it's really taking products in on a super fast track. So we partnered with WBENC when they did their month-long programming in March. And it was at the very end, and we had this contest called Smart Tank. Clearly it was, you know, a play on Shark Tank. And the grand prize was $20,000, $10,000 in cash, and then $10,000 in services. And then the second place was, I think, $5,000 or $10,000, whatever. But anyways, the whole program was to find women or minority-owned businesses that we could invest in and add value and help these women really scale their companies. So we thought we would have, you know, maybe 30 applicants. We had 173 applicants. And the winner, her name is Orion Brown. It's called the Black Box. It's about travel amenities for the African American and Black communities. So, which is very exciting. And then the second one is a cleaner. But then we also found other ones that we are investing in called like Eco Baggies and maybe Tasty Clean. So it was really a lot of fun. And actually I'm in discussions with Maria Prince at NMSDC to roll this out. And we're really looking for, you know, 3 or 4 companies annually that we can partner with. So it was a lot of fun. And you know, it was successful.
So what was the winning idea?
It was called the Black Box.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the travel accessories.
Great. So Jackie, I'm sure you have plenty of success stories in your world. Is there one in particular that stands out?
Wow, yeah, we do have so many. I mean, sometimes it's a matter of MBEs partnering with each other to go ahead. I just spoke with well, you know, Keith Stevens. He's on the board there. He said, introduce me to anybody who you think might make sense, even if they're a competitor, right? So I love his spirit and that attitude, because you know why, that's going to help him and help his business grow. So we have found that those who are very open to it and open to feedback, that is a critically important skill, coachable, whatever you want to call it, but be very open to feedback. I used to be an MBE myself. I used to be the president of a $65 million firm called Glory Foods, and that's where Angela's husband used to work. And then I have a long career in corporate, and I was a banker. So I have a lot of personal experience that I can share as a business consultant. So I encourage our MBEs to listen, take heed, and make sure that you're applying a lot of the things and skills that you learn here. I will say though that last year when the pandemic hit, a lot of our major corporations could not get their PPE supplies. So we were proactive. Before they even asked us, we sent them a list of MBEs that supply PPE. They could get it. Why? Because they're smaller, they're nimble, et cetera. The networks are different. They were able to supply major corporations, and they were so grateful to be able to, it really got them out of a jam. right? So that was a real case of here's the nimbleness, the innovativeness, the whatever you want to call it, but these MBEs were ready and they were able to save the day for our large corporations so that they can have what they so critically needed. So there's so many, many success stories that are wrapped up in there. I will say one other thing, we've had this happen with a couple of our major corporations. Cardinal Health and Fifth Third have done it. When you are invited to participate in some of those monthly sessions that they might have, it may feel like it's a waste of time, or it may feel like it's not leading directly to a contract, but true story. Fifth Third would gather all of the IT suppliers. IT space is very crowded, as we all know, right? It's very broad and very crowded. And they would have these monthly calls with all of the IT suppliers. The list started with over 100 people, and over time it dwindled down to about, it's less than 10 people on the call. Well, guess what? When they had an opportunity, guess who got the RFPs? Guess who got a chance to bid? It wasn't the 100, it was those less than 10 who hung in there. And I know your time is valuable. I know what it's like to run a business, but you've got to figure out where you're going to invest your time. And what a lot of these major corporations have, they don't have, a lot of the opportunities that are just kind of flying off the shelves all the time. They have a lot going on. But when they're ready, and you have got to be ready, and you've got to spend the time investing in the relationship, which takes a lot of time. And what I tell MBEs is, in the meantime, when you're waiting for that Cardinal Health and Kroger ship to come in, partner with each other, because you guys need goods and services as well. So.
Thank you. So we had a question in the chat from Lynette Smith, who is the CEO of CRLC Logistics. Looks like she maybe got the question answered, but it was basically what other certifications are suggested for a woman and minority-owned business for the largest impact to my bottom line. So we haven't talked much about groups like the Columbus Urban League, for example. So is there anything, if you're starting with the Urban League, in addition to the groups we've mentioned here, or any other suggestions for Lynette Smith?
Well, I think, I always think that if you look at the different logistics councils and different chambers, I think that's always important, because I don't know if Lynette is national, if she has a national logistics company or if it's regional. So I also look at all the different regional RPOs. Like, I'm a member of the Great Lakes Regional Partner Organization of WBENC as well, because they have matchmaking sessions at their trade shows. So if you're trying to look for something that's regional, don't just look at like Ohio River Valley, the WBENC one. Look at the one that's in Michigan, maybe one that's in Pennsylvania. If you're really trying to build your business regionally, and because you can drive to those events, and they literally have matchmakers there. So I think those are maybe a little bit insider information, Angela, wouldn't you call it? Because a lot of people don't realize that there's these regional organizations that have these trade shows that connect you with those, the Fortune 500, and then some smaller companies as well. As Angela was saying, there's 14,000 women-owned business. I used to be the chair of the forum for WBENC. I said, if we all just gave each other a contract, can you imagine the magnitude that this would do to our economy? So it's not just it. So again, partnering with each other or using each other as a supplier. As a matter of fact, who said that earlier about looking at, Renee, thank you, about probably, I don't know if it was Darla King, but if you're looking for women-owned businesses in that area, and there's a database within these organizations too, that you can find these types of other women-owned businesses. So it's not like Googling it, right? There's an actual database. So hopefully that's a little bit of help. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah. And I would like to pick you off of what Tara just said too. Going to different events, like when your customers have events and they have internal supplier events to just their organization, you meet so many people. And in this industry across the board, as a diverse company or a diverse supplier who's out there. So again, if there's someone who's comes to me and says, well, Angela, we have this opportunity, and it might not be a good fit for me, I'm always quick to offer up, well, here's another diverse company or woman-owned company that is great in this space. But if I recommend you, then you're coming off of my recommendation, and it's my brand at this point. So never, as a diverse company, recommend somebody that you don't believe in, that can't get the job done, that you don't know about. Because at the end of the day, they're going to look at you side-eyed like, seriously, Angela, why did you recommend this company? And they're awful. So when you have opportunities, like you're not preparing for the opportunity to come today, like you're getting ready for greatness, like before the opportunity comes, so that when the opportunity is there, you're showing, improving, what you can do in terms of your capabilities. And again, never take an opportunity that you can't do, because as a diverse company, specifically as a Black-owned company, once you drop the ball, then people have a tendency to say, you know what, 25 years ago, we were trying to work with a diverse company and they dropped the ball. It was a horrible experience, and we're never working with another diverse company ever, 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 ever again. It happens. So you just need to make sure that whenever you have an opportunity, do it well, go over and beyond. And then also, if there's opportunities for other people and you know them, then recommend other people, show the love, because this is not a crab in the barrel mentality. There's enough room at the top, as my mentor always said, for everybody. So we're all standing on each other's shoulders. We're all sharing the love. And that's all I have to say on that.
And that's what, and I'll just build on what you said, Angela, because that's the, we found when suppliers go back to the corporations, even if things went horribly wrong, look, we screwed up, let's understand why. Please give us the feedback and be open to the feedback. And then you can even come back and say, well, even if you're not going to give me another contract, here's what we did to address the feedback, right? So they just want to know, okay, at least you were coachable and teachable in that moment, and that may change somebody's mind. And who knows, in another few years, you may be able to be considered for another opportunity. So just always be open to whatever feedback you're getting from the companies. And again, it's going to these events, building the relationship over time, because it may take you years, literally years, to be able to get your foot in the door at some of these larger corporations. But if you never start and they don't know who you are, there's no way that they can recommend you. The other piece is that we've got a minority business input committee in Toledo, Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati. We also have a local advisory committee, which is comprised of corporate members and minority businesses. So if you're an MBE, it will behoove you to get involved in one of the LACs, because you get to know the corporate members on a personal basis, right? You're not there to sell your business, but over time, they get to know who you are. So you're on their radar. And then if they have an opportunity, or if somebody asks them about an MBE, they can say, you know what, Angela's been coming to these meetings. I think she's somebody good you need to recommend. And make sure that me and my staff, that we know who you are and what you do, because oftentimes we get these opportunities, and that's, Angela's right, before we send it out to our database, I will send it to Coalescence. Why? Because I know them. I know what they do. I know their quality firm. I know who they are, right? So I will send it to them sometimes before everybody else gets it. And you can say that's right or wrong, but I know that they're going to come through and represent really well. So everybody still gets the opportunity, don't get me wrong, but sometimes they may get a slight jump on it.
Yeah. A couple of other things that I would like to add, get a board, get an advisory board that can actually help you with things that are happening today, but then also your vision. And I'm always surrounding myself by people that are way smarter than me. So it might be an area of banking. I might need to know something about Lean Six Sigma and manufacturing. It might be something around quality. It might just be a different perspective from another diverse supplier. Whatever your needs are today and thinking into the future, surround yourself with a good board that can actually help you get there.
And Angela, I concur with that. And if you can't afford a board, there's creative ways to compensate as well. And then there's also organizations out there that really, you have forums, which really can become an advisory board as well, because we call it forum confidential. Nothing goes past that. I've been in YPO for 20 years, maybe a little bit longer than that. And we have a forum that meets every single month. But there's entrepreneurs. I put some of those ideas in the chat room. Entrepreneurs organization is a fabulous one, and that mirrors YPO's just their standards and their requirements and how they operate, I guess. There's Vistage. I mean, there's so many ones out there that you can join. I know NABO is a great organization. We have the largest chapter here in Ohio. That's bigger than any other chapter nationally. There's WIL Barb Smoot runs WEL, great organization. But I mean, if you seriously Google like Ohio Women Inc., there's a huge list of all the women organizations that you can be part of, and kind of find what your niche is too, where you fit, because then you'll be more comfortable. And everybody says you get in what you get out what you put in, right? And that's Jackie was saying that too, because she always recommends Angela, goes to Angela. Well, I'm so connected with WBENC, they'll do the same thing. You have to volunteer your time and your energy and really make sure that you are committed to that organization, because you'll get so much more out of it than you put in the long run.
Another thing that I would like to add for corporate, for the corporations that are out there, don't stall us out. Like, we can wait on an order, but don't stall us out, because people have a tendency to stall out diverse-owned companies so long that you stalled us right on out of business. And it's just like, look, I'm never afraid to ask for an opportunity, but I'm just like, we need to get paid today so that we can continue this legacy and continue hiring people and continue reinvesting in our company and continue being greater and being lockstep with you. And then the other thing is, for other corporations that are out there, don't just give diverse and women-owned companies the crumbs on the table. Trust in us that we actually have the skill sets, the knowledge, and the ability to actually step up and do the innovation in the creative space, where we're not just competing for that 5 or 10% set aside. We want that whole pie.
And one thing I'll add to that, two things, 2 points. One, I believe Walmart is leading the charge to reduce the payment terms for diverse suppliers, because you're right, that's something that'll put you out of business. And I've had so many people come to me, because I spent such a long time in the food space, and say, hey, we want to do business with Walmart. I said, be careful. So it's great, but you may get a big contract. And even with Kroger, we've had someone locally, a woman-owned business, who got business with Kroger. Kroger may start you with 20 stores, which is great, but if you don't have the supply chain and the ability to float that amount of product, then yeah, you're gonna be in trouble. So I'm glad to see that the industry is talking about those terms. I think that's critically important. The other thing I wanted to say real quick before we get snatched out of the room is that Procter & Gamble did a study of all their diverse suppliers. They have over 4,000. You can imagine, they're a huge company, right? Their diverse suppliers outperform their non-diverse suppliers on a whole host of metrics. A whole host of financial metrics, performance metrics, period. That's fact. That's Procter & Gamble. They weren't saying, oh, this is some little tiny program we've got going. No, they have data that proves it internally. So I love the quantitative combined with the qualitative stories. I think that's what makes this space so powerful. But I'd love for more corporations to really understand that, embrace it. So we share that data every chance we get.
Thank you all so much. Looks like we got a few seconds left. We'll go back into the bigger room and go into some breakout rooms. But thank you all for joining today. It was a great conversation. We'll continue here in a bit. I just want to say thanks again to our presenting partners, Schneider Downs and Cedric, for their support. Also want to thank our sponsor, Southwest Airlines. Again, we've joined Southwest Airlines as a partner to celebrate their 50th anniversary Acts of Kindness campaign, which is an initiative by Southwest to inspire 1 million acts of kindness this year. So please visit southwest50.com/acts of kindness to take the Southwest pledge. So with that, the winner of today's $100 gift card by Southwest is, everyone do their fake drum roll, Lynette Smith of Securidyne Logistics. Congratulations.
Hey, thank you. I will take that on a Thursday morning.
Good way to start your Thursday.
Great way to start the Thursday. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Lynette, where are we going?
See, with Southwest, we might be able to go to, I don't know, Japan, Africa. No, I'm kidding.
I think you can get as far as Mexico on Southwest. So
can you really? All right. I'm going to Mexico in August, so we'll see how we can combine that.
One of the few that fly direct to Las Vegas too.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like trouble.
And Zaki is fluent in Spanish. He's my Spanish teacher. So if you want to know how to talk, join us.
Got you.
All right. I didn't know that. Okay. That's good to know. Awesome.
Congrats, Lynette. Thanks again for everybody joining us. Just one last thing is you can visit the columbuschamber.org/events to check out our upcoming events so you can have other similar opportunities like this one to network, learn more about what we're working on. We have our part 2 of our annual meeting coming up August 25th at Huntington Park, in-person networking. So please join us there. Like I said, this will probably be one of our last completely virtual events, although we will try to continue doing some hybrid things. So again, columbus.org/events. I will be sure to send out the attendees list of everyone who is here today so that you can have their information, their LinkedIn, their title, etc. And one last special thanks to Lisa, Heather, Tara, Jackie, Angela, Colleen. Thanks to all of you. And of course, Angela and Coalescence, thank you for your $1,000 contribution to the scholarship. We'll follow up here in a bit. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Thursday. I think this was a great event. I look forward to hearing your feedback, and we'll speak soon. Thanks a lot.